Hello, I'm Tiffany Summers, and this is Country Gravy. This is my husband Clint, and he is gonna join me. So this is the part in the video where I always apologize and talk nonsensically about whatever's going on. So I usually say, I'm sorry that it took me so long. The only consistent thing about my Country Gravy videos is the
Inconsistency.
inconsistency. Isn't that
Well,
fun?
I can say that this has been a really busy month and a half, and partially my fault. But we're getting to this, and Tiffany has said that she needs to get something out before the election on Saturday. So we're doing it now.
Yeah. I always give people shit when they don't do what they say they're gonna do. So I'm gonna do what I said I was gonna do. So I did a video. The last video I did was on the constitutional amendment number 1 that's going to be on the ballot on Saturday, November 13th. I'm sure some people who are going to vote or who care have already participated in early voting. We have not. But so it's projected that there's only going to be an 8 to 10% voter turnout. And one of the reasons that scares me is that here in Greater Baton Rouge area, there's not a whole lot on there. In Baton Rouge proper, there's the four constitutional amendments, and then there's the judges race, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Here, in the unincorporated area in no man's land that nobody cares about, all there is the four constitutional amendments. We're really in no man's land. Like, this isn't even St. George area anymore.
There's no tax millages.
St. George doesn't even care about us. No, all it is, if you use your Go Vote app, it'll show you exactly what's on the ballot. If you would have done your homework. And so anyway,
I do want to go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the point I was making, so and that's statewide. That's the case in a lot of places. There's not anything other than these four constitutional amendments. There's nothing else on the ballot, except the one that I actually know about, because it's the only place we ever hear about is New Orleans. So New Orleans has their mayor's race, and apparently there's like a gajillion people on the ballot. It's still projected that Cantrell's gonna win. They're talking about the idea that she may not get more than half, so she may be in a runoff, which is going to be bizarre if there's that many people and they don't get a lot of votes. Anyway, but here's the thing. So what I was getting to, this is why it scares me. You're going to have higher voter turnout in places where there's important stuff on the ballot. And I would think a mayor's race is pretty important, especially in an area like that.
Yeah.
And so those are the people who are going to be voting. Do you want the voters in New Orleans making decisions, statewide decisions?
Right. Because they already get everything anyway. Everybody thinks New Orleans is well, no. My point, I wasn't trying to be political. My point is that if people outside of the state of Louisiana or outside of the South hear about Louisiana, they think it's all New Orleans. So that what you're talking about, I'm expounding on what you're talking about.
Sure.
I'm not giving my own personal opinion, and I'll get into why I can't do that in a second.
It's a good segue.
Yeah. Anyway, what Tiffany is saying is that in Baton Rouge, specifically outside the city limits. And I pulled up my Go Vote ballot, and it is definitely only the constitutional amendments.
Because he couldn't just believe it that I
Well,
said
no,
it.
you called me out, so that's why I did that. So I pulled it up and made sure, and I thought there were millages, but there's not for us at least. And so I don't care which way you vote. I know how I'm going to vote, but I'm not going to say it on here. But we need to make sure that everybody's voice, like if you want your voice to be heard, you need to go vote, however you vote. Because if you don't, number one, you have the right to bitch, okay? And number two, because other people will be voting for stuff that affects you, and if you don't go vote, then, you know, again, you can't bitch about it. But, okay, so on that segue, I am going to be providing facts only because my position, I am a civil servant. I work for the state of Louisiana, and I am disallowed from participating in all kinds of political activities. I can't I can't do it.
I couldn't even put a sign in my yard because technically it's not my yard. It's his yard.
No, well, yes, but it was also because I own. Even if we both owned it, you wouldn't be able to put it on half because that our
It's
HR
my half of the
section.
yard.
But there's no half. Like it's community property, it's
I know.
100%.
Okay,
That's
anyway,
why.
the point is he can't give his opinion.
Right. So I will be providing facts,
You're
and
going to be reading the PAR guide.
that's correct.
All right. So now that
Put it on a cracker. Go ahead.
I originally said I was going to do a series. Well, that didn't happen.
Do you want to go through
So,
Amendment 1 again? First?
No, I don't want to go through Amendment 1. You want to talk about Amendment 1, you want to know about Amendment 1, go watch the other video. As of right now, it only has 15 views. So, one thing I was going to say, you know the saying, better late than never?
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's not true in this case because I've only had 15 views from the last video, so maybe never would be better. So that was kind of my thought was,
not true.
okay, I either have to do this or I have to take everything down.
Well, but so before we move to number 2, I still think we need to recap number 1 because it'll take 2 seconds.
No, they're going to go watch the other video and then I'll have more views on that video.
Sweetheart, you got a lot more views to be able to monetize.
I'm not worried about monetizing it.
I love you.
I love you.
All right, so amendment number 2. Let me scroll to it.
All right, so amendment number 1 was about streamlining how taxes are collected and remitted. And if you've been watching the news, you've definitely heard about that one. Interesting tidbit, you know who's against that? LaToya Cantrell. She's actually come out to say that she's against it. And if you watch my previous video, you'll understand what I had to say about those things.
I can't say what I think, but
no, you can't.
Do you know why?
So, yeah. Have you seen Boardwalk Empire? I'm just saying. So anyway, that's what I compare everything to, is movies and TV shows. Okay, so again, if her supporters are going to come out on Saturday and vote for her for mayor, if they're supporting her, then maybe they are like-minded and are going to vote against constitutional amendment number 1. Y'all go vote. All right. So I had said last time number 1 and number 2 are about tax reform. It's not about new taxes. It's not about increasing taxes. It's not
Constitutional Amendment 1 is not about tax reform. It's about tax collection.
But it's about fixing the process, like how taxes are collected and remitted. And so the thought is that we're actually going to be able to collect more taxes. Like what's been said here lately with the big pushes is the whole idea about like online sales taxes and mom and pop shops and like local businesses being able to compete with that because they pay taxes, but we're not getting our online tax collection.
Right.
But this will help in that. So, um, God, y'all, if Mississippi can do it, so can we. We can do it.
Yeah, for on the radio show, I'm not sure if it was this week or last week, but I heard a stat that we are one of two states
Two states, yeah.
that it's.
And
I think it's us in
it's
Colorado.
not even Mississippi.
I think it's us in Colorado that Louisiana and Colorado are the two states that do not have centralized tax collections. And so, from what I understand, again, I'm giving facts or what I think are facts. Um, I believe that each parish has their individual tax collector or tax assessor, and so each individual parish is supposed to collect the taxes, and then the state gets a portion, and the parish gets a portion, and the localities get a portion. That's the way it's supposed to work. And I'm under the impression that it is not working that way, and so there are people.
Did you
And
watch my last video?
it's been like 2 months. I've slept a couple
Okay.
times since then.
He needs to watch it, and so do you. Okay, let's move on.
All right, so
I love you, but we're
amendment
moving
number
on.
2.
Wait, okay. You may have gotten one of these in the mail too. Look at that. Vote yes on number 2. This is the only mailer that I've received. I mean, maybe like
We received one. I just threw it away.
but for this.
No, it was number 2.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That this is the only thing we've received mailers on. I mean, maybe if we were in Baton Rouge proper, we would have received one on Judge and whatever. But and I feel like it's because this one is the most complicated one, like the hardest one to really understand what it is. Because it's not just about it triggers other things. And I think that's kind of a complicated it complicates it for people
Maybe.
to understand.
Maybe.
Yeah?
Maybe.
All right. So Clint is going to go and read what the PAR guide says. So again, parlouisiana.org. They have a guide every time there's an election.
3 guides.
There's a guide. They have a brief one. They have an expanded form where you can read all of the history of like this is what the law used to look like. This is what a vote for means. This is what a vote against means. This is why it got brought up. This is the history, all of that good stuff. So Clint is just going to read.
I'm going to read the current situation and then what it means to be for and what it means to be against.
Okay, we have to do 3 of these.
Okay, I'm going to be quick.
Thinking about time.
I'm going to be quick.
I just want you to know I am missing Law and Order for this. I'm just saying.
All right. So the current situation I'm reading from Par Louisiana's full descriptor, the packet. It says current situation: the Louisiana Constitution freezes the individual income tax rates and brackets to what they were in 2003, when the top rate was 6% for individuals making over $50,000. This figure is among the higher top rates in the nation, especially in the Southeast. Excuse me. The Constitution also mandates a state income tax deduction fully for all federal income taxes paid, a requirement made in only one other state. The deduction puts state and federal tax policy at cross currents. When federal taxes increase, the larger deduction on state income tax returns decreases the tax burden and state revenue. Conversely, when federal taxes are cut, Louisianans pay more state income tax and the state's revenue increases. All right? So now I'm going to read a vote for. So for a vote for, it would mean lowering the maximum rate of the income tax and allowing the removal of a major state tax deduction, triggering statutory reforms for individual and corporate income and franchise taxes.
So that's what I was explaining, that if this goes through, other things also happen.
Yes. To dumb it down, not because your listeners are stupid, because they're not, but this seems to be legalese, some of it. So they're they're lowering the maximum tax rate overall, all right, and then it seems like they're taking away the federal
It's
tax deduction away from your state income tax. That way, uh,
it's not they're not tied together anymore.
well, they're not tied together, and then because they're reciprocal, and so we don't want if a president changes. Like if something happens in Washington D.C. and a president changes or Congress changes and they start messing with the tax code,
It shouldn't change our state.
we don't want
The
the state
state
coffers to lose money or gain a ton of
right
money either way. Because if it gains a ton of money, it could hurt us. If it loses,
as individuals too.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. That's what I'm saying. So if the state gains a lot of money, it can hurt the individuals and the business owners because they're paying more tax. But then if taxes go, if you pay less tax if you pay less federal tax, you pay more state tax, affecting the businesses and individuals.
Right.
If the federal taxes go up, then state coffers go down, and the state has budget crises. So that's what I read that as. Again, that's not my opinion. That's not an opinion on this specific amendment. It's just my reading of it. The other, sorry, go ahead.
So one thing I was gonna say, and I've talked about this in previous videos, but when you see commercials, when you get mailers and things, one question you should ask yourself is who's paying for that? Where is that coming from? You know, vote yes. So who is supporting this, right? Okay, so this one comes from Americans for Prosperity. You know, um, mm, um, but also there have been business organizations like LABI
Mm-hmm.
came out and in favor, and their explanation is that this is going to help make Louisiana more attractive for businesses
Yep,
to come to the state.
they did say that.
Yeah. Anyway, so those are important things to think about too. And I've talked about that before. Like your reason for voting, it depends on your priorities, and if you're a small business, well then, or if you're a
Right.
business owner, if anyway.
Right.
If you're someone who doesn't have a steady job, or your job depends on the industry and what's going on and business is coming to the state, then
Yeah.
yeah, that means something to you. All right, so that's all in favor of it. So a
Okay.
vote against.
A vote against would keep the Constitution's current tax rates and the requirement to allow deduction for federal taxes paid, which would stop all the statutory reforms. So again,
Stop the reform.
it's look at it from what this says. Look at it like if we keep the status quo, our income tax structure is based partially on the federal income tax collections.
Right, our state
Income tax
structure. Yeah.
structure is tied at least partially to the federal income tax rates and federal income tax deductions and all that jazz. And so if you vote for, they remove that. If you vote against, they keep it where it is like now. So just remember, vote for is to remove that from the state tax bill or state income tax as a deduction.
Deduction
So
and then
yes
increase.
is the removal. No is to keep it the same.
Okay. All right. So okay. So let's move on in the interest of time. I don't even know if we should talk about number 3.
Do you want to talk about this? The tax rates? The tax rate proposal?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
If you want more information,
Go to Par Louisiana.
parlouisiana.org. If you want to know more about that and why I use that, go see 2 videos ago. All right, so number 3, I kind of debated whether or not to even do number 3 because in the greater Baton Rouge area,
We don't have a
it
levy
doesn't
district.
affect us.
Right, but I still think
So what I
we're
was
going to be
gonna
voting for it.
say,
Okay, sorry.
yeah. Anyway, so it's about levy districts and how decisions are made. We don't have a levy district here. So if you don't really care, then do you just not vote for that one? Do you vote yes? Do you vote no? What I did was I looked at what um, what people were saying in those places where they do have levy districts. So I went to some people who report on things in New Orleans. I looked at the Twitter feeds for some of the council people that I like out of New Orleans to see what they were doing. That's how I educated myself.
Wait,
And
we like people in New Orleans?
I didn't say we. We hardly do anything the same.
You're right.
There are some people that I like very much.
Well, I love your family that lives in New Orleans. I
Well,
can say that.
none of them live in the city anymore. What does that tell you? Okay, anyway. So so that would be my suggestion. If you care, educate yourself that way. Look and see where there are levy districts closer to you, um, and see what people are saying. People that you trust, and see what they say.
Well, okay, so I'm not going to give the situation, but I will read through what it means for and against because everybody in the state gets to vote on it. A
Which is
vote,
really interesting. Like, why?
well, because you have levy districts throughout the state. It's not just along the
I
Mississippi
hope we
River.
never have a levy district here.
Right. Okay, so
Yikes.
the Amendment 3 is for taxing authority for new levy districts. New. And it actually says in the again, or I'm sorry, in the for and against, there's a time frame that they're talking about. So a vote for would allow levy districts created since 2006 to raise a 5 mil property tax where district voters also approve the amendment. All right. A vote against would continue to allow levy districts created since 2006 to get voter approval for any tax millage. Um, so it looks like a vote for would give them an automatic 5 mil property tax in those areas. That way they don't have to. So they don't have to say what they're doing the millage for. It seems like they're getting a 5 mil property tax in that area if you vote for it, and then a vote against would mean that every time they want more money, they have to
The
go get
voters, yeah, the
right.
voters have to say yes or no.
And so that is still the case if they want to increase it past 5 mils. Is the way I read it. But right now,
Under five,
if
yeah,
it's they
right.
get it, so levy districts, if you vote for it, the levy districts get a 5 mil property tax. Is what it looks like. Where district voters also approve the amendment. So if let's say the Orleans levy district, or let's say I think there's a levy district between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. All right, so let's say Ascension and Assumption and all those parishes, that levy district, if that area votes yes on this, then that levy district will automatically get a 5 mil or they can get a 5 mil property tax without going back to the voters. Is the way I read it, because the voters are approving it in this amendment. If it as long as it stays below 5 mils, they don't have to go back. If it goes above 5 mils, or if it's for specific purposes, I think they still have to go back. Is the way it reads to me. But again, I would go to Par Louisiana and check it out yourself before you vote on it.
But I would think fundamentally people might have an opinion on the idea: should the voters get a say every time, or do we trust those people that we've voted for to make decisions for us?
Well, we do that all the time.
Right.
We do it all the time.
Well, right, but I think fundamental, like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, even though I don't care, it doesn't affect me.
Mm-hmm.
Day to day, it's not gonna affect me.
Not this specific
Right.
amendment,
Right.
but I
But
think the way,
fundamentally,
yeah,
I have an idea
big
of,
picture,
do I think the voters should vote on it every time?
right.
Or should we trust those people that we've
What are your thoughts on it?
put in that place?
Since it's your podcast and I can't speak on it.
Fundamentally, I think the voters should vote on it.
Every time they want a millage?
No, I just mean not this. not this instance and this idea. I think fundamentally, I want to say.
Okay, so then why, just being devil's advocate, why do we elect officials to go up there if you want to say in all the tax
Okay,
increases?
so here's the thing, and I think oh, I don't know if I want to use that example. Here's the one that came to mind.
Okay,
Bill Cassidy.
what about him?
I'm a Bill Cassidy fan,
Mm-hmm.
but there are a lot of people who voted for Bill Cassidy
Mm-hmm.
who were furious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like so furious they put up billboards on the interstate
Okay.
about what a traitor Bill Cassidy is to his party.
I'm not sure. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know what this
okay.
is.
Anyway, so
What did he vote on?
anyway, I really shouldn't have brought up Bill Cassidy.
You shouldn't have, but you did. So, what did he vote on that people didn't agree with?
Okay, no. We're not going into that. Anyway, it happens though that we do vote for politicians and they make promises and then they get in these positions and for one reason or another they don't deliver.
Okay.
So that's where I'm coming from, that we should get a vote. But there are times that we get a vote and shit still doesn't happen. I mean, look at St. George. That's an example. I brought up St. George earlier. But
that's
I mean,
different.
but look at all, because there are all kinds of other things tied to this stuff.
Well, so
you know,
St. George specifically, that hasn't happened because it's in litigation. They can't do anything until the litigation
and
happens.
it will sit and sit and sit. And if they would have fixed schools in the first, anyway.
Yeah, that's another podcast for another day. So, but again, this is not my opinion. I want her to speak on stuff, and I'm trying to pull stuff.
Well,
so
I'm not going to speak on Bill Cassidy anymore.
we can talk about, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's it. How do you not? Yes, you do, and you're just
I really
acting
don't.
like that.
I really don't. I stay out of politics. Like I try to stay out of the news.
No, you don't.
And I try to stay out of politics as much as I can, because I don't want to have a heart attack at 39.
No, you just want to know enough to antagonize your wife when you
true.
think it's fun.
That's not true. Okay, so something else about Amendment 3.
No, nothing else about Amendment 3. We don't care about Amendment 3. Do you care about Amendment 3?
It tells
15
you
people who are going to watch this? No.
It tells you which districts. Tells you five of the 8. Here are the five new districts without millages that will be impacted by Amendment 3.
And where is he getting this from? From parlouisiana.org.
Iberia Parish, Chenier Plain Coastal Restoration, Squirrel Run, St. Tammany, Tangipahoa. Tangipahoa and St. Tammany are in your listening area.
They're pretty close.
They are.
Who do we know there that's listening? You think my cousin's listening
your
to
brother?
this? You think my brother is listening to this?
Yes. Because your brother loves you. He lives in St. Tammany. And I've got friends that live in Tangipahoa.
They moved back.
Who?
And we're not going to name names. They moved back.
Tedesco, bruh.
They moved back.
No,
you don't even
didn't.
pay attention.
No, they didn't. They live in Ponchatoula.
They moved back.
And Marty, what's up, bruh?
I pay attention.
Lionel. That's right. It's Lionel, not Lionel. St. Martin.
Oh my God. Okay.
Anyway, okay. Amendment 4. Amendment 4 is tapping more dedicated money to fix a deficit.
Okay. I hate that there's like 2 sentences on this, on here. You really have to read the whole thing. You and I are not going to agree on this. I know that we're not going to agree on this.
I'm not sure. Okay, so...
You didn't do your homework.
Because I've got 27 other things I'm doing. I'm trying to help you out with the podcast. Current situation. The state constitution requires a balanced budget. If official state revenue projections foresee a deficit, the state must act to correct the situation and balance spending with revenue. Several tools are available to the governor and legislature that can be used outside of a legislative session. The governor can lower state general fund appropriations with limited reductions to agency budgets. Once the governor reduces total state general fund appropriations by 0.7%, there are additional actions the chief executive can take with the approval of JLCB, which is the Joint Legislative Committee on the Budget. One of these actions is to take up to 5% of each state's dedicated funds and redirect the money to the state general fund. These types of dedications finance specific activities or programs but are not part of the state's general operating fund. Moving money from these dedications to the general fund can help fix a budget shortfall. Several constitutional funds and dedications are protected from this kind of sweep, leaving a few constitutional funds and hundreds of statutory dedications that can be targeted. And the proposed change for Amendment 4 is this amendment would increase the amount that can be tapped from these dedications from 5% to 10%. The governor's action still requires the approval of the Joint Budget Committee, JLCB. The funds and dedications protected under the current system would remain protected. All right?
So it would still have to get voted on when they want to do it.
That's what it looks like.
Right.
So the Joint Legislative Committee on the Budget is bicameral, bipartisan. It's a very large group of legislators that come from Senate and House, and they vote on all kinds of stuff, including this.
So my point was, though, every time it's going to happen, like when you're looking at the budget, it still has to be voted on and decided upon. It's not like it's an automatic thing.
Right, yeah, the governor can't just say, boom, I'm doing it.
Something, and I feel I touched on this in the previous video, but maybe not, because the first one has something like this, where just because we vote yes or no, and it's approved or it's denied or whatever, sometimes it just triggers other actions, and it doesn't even mean that it's going to be enacted. Or, do you see what I'm saying? I just feel like that point has to be made. It's like when we were talking about with number 2, you know, there are other
checks and
like
balances.
partner bills that go with these things, you know.
Well, I think with this amendment, I think what you're trying to say is that yes, this. So if this happens, it's going to jump the percentage that the governor is allowed to sweep.
Right, but it doesn't mean that it
may
will
not happen. It
right.
may not happen because
yes, that's all I was trying to say.
It's dependent on if there's a budget shortfall,
right,
or all this other stuff. Plus,
right,
once he decides he's going to do it, it's got to go in front of specific committees. Right. And plus you've got the revenue estimating conference that meets with that kind of stuff too.
Right.
And they're involved with that.
Right.
All right. So a vote for Amendment 4 would allow the transfer of more dedicated funds from 5 to 10% to fix a state budget deficit, and a vote against would keep the current 5% limit for tapping dedications to fix a deficit. What are your thoughts on this, Tiffany?
Okay. So pull up the brief version, because it gives a more expanded explanation. There's something in there that I've read that I really like. Like, go back to the previous.
Hold on.
Anyway, okay, so I've said before that I'm a legislative junkie. Yeah, go to number 4. Do you know what one of my favorite parts back in the day? One of my favorite parts of watching session was?
Barbara Norton.
Oh God, that's a whole other show. We'll do it. We'll do a Barbara.
Did
Norton
you know?
And did you know?
All right.
But no, wait, hang on. We'll do an episode on Barbara Norton if you want to join me for Barbara Norton.
I can't do that. Well, no, she's not a politician anymore.
Okay,
I might be.
No. Okay, so but what I want to say, my favorite part was John Kennedy when he would carry in his big binders and just let them fall on the desk.
Oh, when he was treasurer?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he would talk about all the dedicated funds and the tax exemptions and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And all his Dr. Phil-isms.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just John Kennedy-isms. Maybe he did it first.
Yeah, they're definitely John Kennedy-isms. Anyway. All right, so you want me to read the argument for and the argument against?
Okay, so... Yeah, go ahead and read it, and then I'll give you my opinion.
So, the argument for on the one that I'm reading from now is called... Let me get the name right. Oh, crap. It's PAR... hold on.
It's the brief guide.
It's called the mini guide.
Yeah.
the mini guide, this is where this is
So it
coming
doesn't
from.
give you the whole history, but it gives you a little bit more information than he originally read. So this is amendment number 4, tapping more dedicated money to fix a deficit.
All right. Argument 4 would mean that dedicated funds are rampant and tie the hands of policymakers by restricting flexibility in the appropriations process. This fact can be particularly problematic during a fiscal crisis when the state might have many pots of protected money but inadequate authority to free up that revenue. Increasing the amount of dedications that can be tapped would rescue vital programs that are often targeted in budget deficit situations, such as health care and higher education.
Right, because that's what always gets money taken from it.
Well, because they're high
It's
state
a
general
it's a
fund.
lot of money. Yeah. But education and healthcare, and that's what we need to not be taking money from. And there are so many other dedicated funds that are absolutely ridiculous. Okay, but here's what I want you to listen to, and don't let this fool you. Like, really listen to this.
All right. Argument against. The whole point of dedicating funds is to maintain the integrity of important programs and priorities that the legislature has determined deserve special protection. State leaders already have ample flexibility with a 5% cap to redirect dedications when facing a deficit. If there's a problem with dedicated funds being too restrictive, the solution is to permanently undedicate the money in some of the funds, not rob the funds.
Okay, do you not love that? Do you not love that? I know you can't say it. I love that last part.
I'm not for or against.
You can't say. You can't say. Okay. So I love that. I love that last sentence. Let me see. Um, if there's a problem with dedicated funds, there's a huge problem with dedicated funds being too restrictive. The solution is to permanently undedicate the money in some of the funds, not rob the funds. Should that happen? Absolutely, that should happen. I absolutely agree with that. However, you can absolutely vote yes for this and do both, because both need to happen. So you can vote to increase the
Wait,
amount.
hold
Yes,
on. Hold
you
on.
can vote. Yeah, it's. Can you stop?
Yeah.
You can vote yes for this and increase the amount of dedicated funds that they can take, and then you can encourage your congressperson, your legislator, to have a bill in the next session about these dedicated funds. I feel like this is misleading. That, well, we need to take care of all those dedicated funds. They try to do it every year. They try to undedicate stuff, and this stuff gets brought up every single year. So I just feel like that's misleading to say.
I think it's a solution looking for a problem.
In general, or that last part.
No, I think this amendment and
But it is a problem that happens, every 3 years when there's not a disaster that we get money for. Like, we rode that Katrina money for years. We rode that Katrina money. We're riding pandemic money right now. But a couple years from now, when that disaster money runs out and we're broke again, they're going to be looking at this stuff.
I can't speak on that.
Well, you don't need to, because I know I'm right.
Mm.
Every few years, when there's not a disaster and we've run out of money, the state has run out of money from the previous disaster and all the misspending that happens. Oh, we have all this Katrina money. Let's expand all this stuff. And then the Katrina money ran out, and it was, the sky is falling. Anyway, I miss John Kennedy and his binders.
We're getting into things that I can't talk about, but I feel very strongly on, so I'm trying to keep my mouth shut. So
that never happens.
This is going on the YouTube interwebs.
It's going on the interwebs, and only 15 people are going to watch it.
Yeah, but my luck. Yeah, I'll say something.
That one person.
One person that works for the legislature or for civil service or for my department.
Nobody cares watch about
it.
You.
Oh, but they do. But they do. And I will say this. All right. Um,
Are you going to tell us one damn thing?
I'll delete this whole thing. Please don't do that. So just be aware of what the state is paying for. Be aware of what you're paying taxes on, or licenses, or fees, or fines. Be aware of it. And that's not an opinion. I mean, it's my opinion. That's what I try to do in my personal life to begin with.
Educate yourself.
Educate yourself. And that's not just like, I don't care how you vote. I don't care. Like, get out there and vote, but educate yourself to make so you're not just voting blind, because blind voting has caused a lot of problems in the past because people don't know. People don't know how it's going to affect them 5, 10, 15 years down the road.
Uninformed voting.
Is that kind of like when I call little people, or when I used to
Just
call
stop.
little people
Stop.
midgets or something?
Stop.
Okay.
Stop. Stop.
So, anyway, yes, uneducated voting.
Uninformed voting.
Uneducated voting. If you.
This is the first and last time you'll ever do this with me, huh?
That's not true. Uneducated voting, uninformed voting, whatever you want to call it. Know where your money is going. Know where your state. Know how the state is using your money. Know how the federal government's using your money. It doesn't take but a minute to take a look, especially in Louisiana. Louisiana's got the Louisiana checkbook, I think is what it's called. It's a transparency initiative that was brought on. I'm not sure if it was brought on by Jindal or by John Bell Edwards.
And Clint's new homework assignment is to look and see what the resource is so we can post it with this video.
Do what?
You need to now, if you're going to bring this up, you need to be able to offer the actual resource so they can look it up.
Yeah, well, Tiffany can link it in the video. But the state, you can look at payroll. You can look at how individual departments paid, what expenditures they paid, how their contracts went. You can go to the Division of Administration's website, go to Planning and Budget, and look at state budgets, like State Department budgets, and you can see how they're spread out. Do that so you know, and you, the royal you know how your money's being spent.
So I, in preparation for this series, so like 2 months ago when I decided I was going to do this, I just Googled Louisiana dedicated funds, and there were a lot of articles um, that I found that I read, some editorials, but it was still really great information about some of these um, dedicated funds. And there was even one from that legislative session, the 2016 legislative session. And that's what made me think of John Kennedy, because it actually talks about John Kennedy and his binders. Anyway, if you don't believe me and you don't trust me, you can look it up yourself.
I would recommend doing that anyway. Not just because, I mean, Tiffany's super smart. She's a lot smarter than me. Um, but you should never trust anybody else. Do your own homework.
Yeah,
That way you
ask
can make an
questions.
informed decision on whatever it is. I mean, you can even look to see for your elected officials, see how they spent in their departments. And like if they're incumbents, I mean,
Yeah.
if they're incumbents, you can see how they spent how their department spent money, or how they decided to budget the money, and you can do that to determine, okay, are they spending my money? Are they spending the state's money? Are they being good stewards? Are they doing what I would like for them to do? And I'm not talking about me, because I'm not going to tell you how I'm voting and who I'm voting for and stuff, because I can't. But educate yourself. Ultimately, an educated voter base is what makes this country great. And it is what will bring this state back and bring the country back
You going back?
from all the stuff, all.
So, go vote on Saturday. If you already participated in early voting, good for you.
High five.
Let your voice be heard. Don't let people from other parts of the state um, that traditionally don't make good decisions make your decision for you.
You can't say that.
I can totally say that.
I can't say that.
You can't say it. I can say it. I do how I want.
I don't agree or disagree with what my wife just said.
Okay, so to recap.
Okay, let me get back
Number
to
one. No, I don't know.
Okay. Vote yes for all four. No, I'm just totally kidding. Totally kidding.
Um,
Okay, so
I really don't care about number 3.
okay, Amendment 1 is statewide tax collection, whether the state's going to collect all
And
taxes and
remittance.
distribute.
And remittance. I think that part's important too.
What, paying out you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Amendment 1 is allowing the state to collect all taxes that belong in the state and then distributing
Did you
them.
know like the sheriff's organization is in favor of that?
Yeah, because it takes work off of the sheriff's plate. Because
Right.
most of the time in parishes, the sheriff is the tax
Maybe I'm
collector.
speaking out of turn. Maybe I really need to look that up and see if Latoya Cantrell has come out against it. But I read,
Because I think the sheriff's
I
association in
heard Sheriff's
Orleans.
Association has said yes. So I heard it first, I think, on the radio, and then I read an article, and I think she said no. It scared the bejesus out of me. But anyway,
So okay, Amendment 1 is statewide tax collection, centralized with the state
central, yes.
government. All right, and they're also going to pay out to the parishes if you support it. If you don't want that, then you vote no. Okay. If you vote yes, that means that you want a centralized structure. All right. Okay. Amendment 2 is we're summarizing.
This is
right?
not what I meant about recap. Go ahead.
That's what a recap is.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say yes and no, but go ahead.
Amendment 2.
Just merely gonna give my opinion. What is number 2?
I don't know because I lost my train of thought. Hold on. Hold on.
I'm teasing you. All right. So number 2 is about the state income
tax reform. Yes, income tax reform, and if you're for it, if you vote for it, it's taking away the federal tax deduction. If you vote against it, you're keeping the federal tax deduction. Uh, Amendment 3 deals with levy districts, and there are 5 specific ones that Parr talks about, but I think they said somewhere else about 8. It affects 8 districts
levy districts, yeah,
that were created after 2006. So I would say research it yourself, see how you want to vote specifically for that one, because we're not going to get deep into it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say this though, because I don't care, but I'm really on the fence because do I believe that the people should have a say? Yes, but do I think that when it comes to taxes, that people are gonna make the right decision? No, I don't.
But okay, but what this is saying is it gives them from what I read, it looks like if if you vote for this, you're giving those districts a 5 mil property tax up front. So they can I would assume that they would use that for operating costs if I had to guess.
You can make whatever assumptions you want.
I'm just in the
All right.
financial realm.
And
Anyway, number four is the doing away with, or I'm sorry, increasing the possible sweep amount from 5 to 10%
of the dedicated funds.
Statutory dedicated and constitutional dedicated funds to the state general fund for the state. So if you vote yes, it's increasing it to 10%. If you vote no, it's keeping it at 5%.
And we can still go back in subsequent sessions and change those dedicated funds.
Well,
Somebody bring back John Kennedy's binders.
to do that, so I can speak on this. To
To
do
do
that,
that,
you would have to get both houses of the legislature to vote to get rid of them, and then it would have to become a constitution. So there would be two bills.
Constitutional
There
Convention.
would be one. No, just
No?
no. I don't believe so. I think it would just have to be
Or is that just the exemptions you'd need a Constitutional Convention?
what exemptions? No, to do away with statutory dedicated funds, they would have to not redact, uh, eliminate the statutes in they would have to vote to eliminate the statutes for the statutory dedicated funds, and then there would have to be a constitutional amendment voted on by the people. From what I understand, there would have to be the constitutional amendment voted on by the people to remove this fund, this fund, this fund, this fund, this fund, this fund, and they would have to list them out. And they would have to talk about what each individual fund is statutorily dedicated to do.
Or you could have a Constitutional Convention.
Or you could have a that's less likely to happen.
Right. They've tried to do it every session.
So that's something I can't talk about. But what I can talk about is that to get that to happen, I think there are two ways to do it. You can do the Constitutional Convention, which is you got to have like a supermajority, I think, to make that happen, and then which is 67%.
It's never gonna happen.
Right. And then, but I think the way that it could happen is you have a constitutional amendment and a bill. So you got two bills. One's a constitutional amendment. One is the bill removing the statute creating the fund. If this passes and this passes, then it goes to the state vote, and the state says yes or no. If the state says yes, do away with it, then it goes away. But I feel like you probably would have to have a constitutional amendment for every one that you do.
We need to have an episode just on the dedicated funds. Because some of them are like really ridiculous. Like they were.
I can't speak on that.
They were.
I can't speak on that.
Or you could just let me finish my sentence.
Okay.
Some of them were created a really long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so are they even necessary anymore? It's kind of ridiculous what some of them are. And anyway, and it's like money you can't touch. Like, here's an example.
Okay.
I mean, not exactly apples to apples, but the idea that did you know we have a surplus in our library system
I've heard that
in
on the
EBR?
Radio.
But there are other places where that money could be used that would, in my opinion and in other people's opinions, be a whole lot more useful to the citizens of EBR. I'm not saying the library isn't a good thing, and we love our library. That's not the issue.
Wait, is that your opinion that it could be used in better places? Or is that some of the facts that you've heard from somebody else?
Well, better is a matter of opinion. Better is a matter of opinion. It's an opinion. Are we going to argue over the English language and grammar and semantics?
I'm not arguing anything.
Did you know?
I'm not arguing anything.
Shall and must.
Because I can't.
I need to take. Okay, so we're going to do a Barbara Norton episode. We're going to do a dedicated funds episode. I don't know. Or if only 5 people watch this, we won't do any more episodes, I guess.
Okay. I would like to do a podcast on stuff that I can talk about.
Okay. So there you go. There's 2 through 4. Because I said I would. And I did what I said I was going to do. Now do your homework. Yes. Educate yourself. And go vote.
Yes.
Are you going to take the kids on Saturday?
Why is this on the podcast?
Are we all going to go walk down to the school? And
I may not vote.
You're going to vote. Can I wear this shirt when I go?
Sure.
Are you gonna wear that shirt when you go?
Why you eat so much?
Why you eat so much? Who is that? Doctor Now.
Happy birthday, me.
That was your birthday present.
It was.
Why you eat so much? Because
I'm fat. How much of this is going to be edited out? Let's see.
None of it, because
we're
that takes work.
Because we are at 54 minutes.
Nope, I'm just uploading as is.
Okay.
And in another room, a child just emptied out Legos. Okay.
No, he's dragging.
Love you. Bye. Thanks for watching Country Gravy.